Hey everyone, it's Matt aka Tech Ranger, and today we're going to be taking a look at Tainted Grail, the Fall of Avalon for the Xbox. This is a dark fantasy RPG, similar to games like Oblivion and Skyrim. It's based on Arthurian legends, so if you're familiar with those stories, and the world itself is almost its own character. So in this video, we're going to go over what you're going to be doing, what you're going to be seeing, and then I'll share my initial thoughts as well as some technical stuff, but I'll have a settings video later on as well. A key was provided to me to check this game out early by the developers, but all the opinions in this video are my own. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like down below, comment down below if you have any questions about anything. With all that, let's take a look at Tainted Grail, Fall of Avalon for the Xbox. So my introduction to King Arthur when I was younger was, yes, that King Arthur movie with Clive Owen. And then in 2021, there was a movie called The Green Knight that came out. And while my knowledge of King Arthur was limited, I was able to pick up on some familiar names and things in the movie that made me think when I got out of the movie, like, man, it'd be great to actually play a video game in this world. Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon aims to do that and give you a lot of choice on how you want to act on a lot of the things that happen in the world. And by nature, pick up a lot of items and do a lot of quests. And Skyrim-like things like fighting, picking locks, mining ore, and even fishing. You'll notice influences from other games, even like Elden Ring or Avowed in terms of combat. What sets this game apart from maybe the rest is that the story is a big drive in this game. So you're talking to a lot of NPCs. The amount of NPCs that you come across and actually get into conversations with, hearing different perspectives will make you understand how bad things are in this world. There's also some really good cutscene videos mixed with some kind of mural painting videos that'll actually play in between doing things. This keeps things relatively immersive whenever you're going and doing side quests, and then you go back and do the main quest. The game comes out on Friday, May 23rd for PC, Xbox Series consoles, and the PS5, so no old gen consoles. However, this game is priced lower than your standard game. The standard edition is $45 USD. There is a supporter edition for $10 more, or you can buy it as a separate upgrade when the game launches. That will include the art book and the soundtrack, which is awesome. Just sit at the title screen and you'll hear what I'm talking about. And of course, there is horse armor, because no fantasy RPG is truly complete without it. There's also a free demo if everything is sounding cool to you so far, but you don't necessarily want to spend the money just yet. So now let's take a look at the gameplay in Fall of Avalon, and then I'll add my impressions along the way. But I think first, that starts with the character creator. The character creator is a little bit bare bones, but I do think the options are pretty good overall. You won't be changing how deep your jawline goes or how big your nose is, but you do have a decent amount of presets to choose from. I would recommend just sticking with the adventurer difficulty at the start. It may seem a little hardcore, but once you start getting some food items, some healing items, combat becomes a lot easier. I also kind of get the impression here that they don't necessarily want you to pick a fight right off the bat. The enemies do hit pretty hard, so unless you have some distance at the start of the game, if you get hit, you're not going to be able to heal. When you start in your cell, you'll have this conversation with the guard, and this is where you kind of pick your class. Similar to a game like Elden Ring, you will be able to adjust your stats later on when you're leveling up at a campfire. And then the way that the gear works is actually based off of the stats, so you'll get the most out of a piece of gear, even the special benefit, if you have the stats. Combat feels pretty good in this game, although it is a little rough around the edges. This does kind of play into the overall performance of the game. I'll touch on that in the final section. There is a third-person mode, which is actually pretty handy for traversal, but also in combat, especially with a bow, because like if you're using a fire arrow, you can't really see the reticle, but if you pop back to third person, you can see it just fine. If you do want to play around with some different styles rather than having to go in your inventory every time and switch to your spells or your daggers, you can actually just set up loadouts in your menu and switch to them with the quick selection wheel. On the note of items, specifically armor and weapons, you want to be aware of what you're picking up and how close you are to a stash. So you get to your stash in the main city in the first area. Once you get out of that starting dungeon, I would probably recommend just heading for that city first. That way you can get to your stash and dump anything that you don't need. And I do really like the sorting in the inventory, so it makes it easy to know what you need to get rid of. In terms of crafting items to pick up, there's a ton, and it was a little overwhelming at first, but I'd recommend just picking up everything that you find, because a lot of this stuff, it doesn't actually weigh anything, and if it does, it's usually pretty minimal. I like this approach, and it's great because you can go to other crafting tables, whether it's alchemy or actually making armor, and there's a high chance that you already have the thing that you needed to make whatever it is. Need some healing items, maybe you can pop down a bonfire and cook up some food using some random ingredients and get some healing. So with bonfires, that's your way to level up in this game. You can plop down a bonfire at any time, and you can even rest to go to the next day if you want to just skip the night and go to daytime, because that's when the weirdness comes, and that's when all of the enemies, they'll get their health back if you previously fought them, but they will drop this item called Ethereal Cobweb. This actually helps fuel your bonfire so you can do things like discover new items and then fast travel if you're not near a fast travel point. The best way to do that is actually to fight and kill enemies during the night. So unless you're in like crypts or something like that, some of those enemies drop ethereal cobwebs, but if you need to get some more, that's the best way to do it. And around this section out, I'll quickly talk about quests. There's a lot of them, probably goes without saying, but just talk to everybody that you encounter. You never know when you're going to pick up a quest, and it's always a good way to get XP and level up early. Like within 5 to 6 hours, I was able to get to level 12, being able to add some points to my attributes to actually wield new weapons and wear new armor. Pair that with some new skills to actually complement that. You'll feel pretty good about roaming around this first area. So I did want to touch on a couple things before we end this video, one of which is performance. This is something that's going to be ongoing and that will probably get better as the game goes on. There is a performance mode that probably targets 60 frames per second, but it is a little hitchy at times, and there are some drops, especially in combat with it being so rigid already. It doesn't feel the best when that does happen. With that said though, some of the interiors, specifically caves, feel really good. The devs did let me know that they are actively looking at this, so this will get better over time. At the recording of this video, there was a patch in the works to help iron this out. And with performance, we have to talk graphics as well. And you've probably noticed already, I don't think this game is going to win any awards for the best graphics, but the overall aesthetic and the art design itself is pretty great. These scenes at the beginning of the game look like there's something out of Elden Ring, which is awesome. So if you use quality mode, that will be a lower frame rate and it should increase the resolution. However, I don't think increasing the resolution is going to really help all that much. Quality mode does have some lighting and shadow improvements as well. The look isn't that drastic, and because of the way the game looks already, I think I would rather have the higher frame rate. And that is going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. There's a few things that need to get ironed out before this game is really awesome, but I think there's a lot of really cool things here. I love the world, the gameplay is cool, and while playing, I've also lost track of time at least a couple times, so that's a plus in my book. Let me know if you plan on picking this up or if you've already bought it. But that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.